Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about your resume and what you're doing wrong or what you can improve on to hopefully help get yourself more interviews, more jobs, and hopefully eventually your dream job. Now, the reason I feel like I can speak on this and hopefully share some of the tips and tricks that I've used is because I was fortunate enough about 6 years ago to get into an engineering field without having fully completed my engineering degree, and this wasn't an internship turned to a job extension offer. This was about a year into school when I got my offer because of my resume, my experiences, and my skill sets, and how I displayed that and how I shared that with my future employers at that time. With that being said, I also got lucky and found a place that was willing to take a chance on me because I know some of y'all are probably rushing to the comments right now saying, I finished my engineering degree, I have a 4.0, I've applied to 150 different places, and I've yet to get a call back or I've yet to get an interview set up. And I feel for you, which is why I set up this video. So just a little bit of background is that I got started about 6 years ago in the engineering field. I am actually an automation engineer now. At some other places, I was a controls engineer, but I've worked at 3 different employers. I've had a ton of job interviews. I would say at least anywhere from 12 to 14, of which about over 75% of them I was able to get some sort of offer back. This includes places actually reaching out to me like SpaceX. So I just want to share some tips. This is not me like trying to gloat or anything. This is me just really trying to emphasize that if you really focus on your resume and focus on what you're putting on paper and what you're working on in the meantime, that I think anybody can do it as well. Whether it's mechanical, electrical, software, civil, or automation engineering, I think it is definitely possible. Now, I will say there are some fields where the engineering degree is an absolute must. If you're going to, be a civil engineer working on bridge projects, yes, you're going to have your engineering degree from an ABET accredited college. So maybe that there is always exceptions to the rule, and I'm referring really to the exception. I know there are a lot of maintenance technicians and electricians out there, or maybe people that are kind of struggling to get internships, or maybe they're even struggling to get a job because they've applied to 150 places, they haven't heard back, and they do have their engineering degree. So with all that talking and blabbing, let's get right to the point. So my first tip is that on your resume you should have hands-on experience in the field that you want to pursue. So example is if you're an electrical engineer, you should have hands-on experience, more than 5 or 6 projects of you working with microcontrollers or FPGAs, or maybe you programming a massive program that took you 6 months, and you finally got it done, and here's your end product. For your mechanical engineers, maybe it's you designed a tool to help you do a job because you were helping your dad take a car motor out or putting a car motor in. So you designed something that was more efficient, it worked, and it was a good learning experience for you. With that being said, as far as how you put that on the resume is the important part, though, because most people have had hands-on experience of doing side projects with still little to no luck. I think this really is going to go into my second tip. So hands-on experience, right? That's number one. Number two is being able to talk about it front and back, everything. So if you help contribute to a project, it needs to be expressed that you contributed to this project, but here's exactly what you did. And this will end up getting into my third my third thing, but you need to be able to talk about what you did. So you need to be able to say, I did this, this, and this. And the most important part on your resume is you need to be able to tell your future employer, hopefully, what went wrong and how you went about fixing it. What was the problem solving process to how you fixed it, right? So, as an example, like if you're trying to become an automation or a controls engineer, you can talk about this problem that you are having, and it shouldn't just be, oh, I wrote some code and it fixed the problem. It should really be very specific. It should be, I programmed a Rockwell PLC. It was an L82E, which is the specific part. You need specifics, right? I programmed an L82E processor using Studio 5000 software version 38. Here's what I changed. Here's why. But when I made the change, it didn't fix the problem. When I made the change, it turns out that that quite didn't do it for us. And then you had to go back to the drawing board and you had to change something else or modify something else for it to fix the problem. And no matter what field you're in, you're going to have that. So if you're a mechanical guy and say you made a custom bracket and you think it's the best thing since sliced bread, and you go to try it and it didn't work, you should be able to talk about that. You should say, well, I was using, this software package. I was using, Inventor or SolidWorks, Fusion 360. I mean, that's pretty much free for students now. I was using SolidWorks 2025, and I made the bracket doing this, this, and this, and ended up determining that the heat loss or heat transfer through said bracket was too much, so I had to change the material. I decided to use this material because of this reason. And that's kind of more of like a higher level issue that maybe a lot of people may not have that, but that should be stuff that you're looking for. You should be looking to fail, and you should be able to take notes on what went wrong, and then take all the notes of what your thought process was at the time and what you did to change it. Because a lot of times, a lot of the interviews that I've been in, and I know a lot of times it may be filled, specialty related. Civil engineers may not have this question as much, but for me in the field of automation and controls, a lot of it is based around that. Well, name a time where you thought you made a change, or you made a change thinking it's going to fix it and it didn't. How did you react under the pressure? How did you make the change? And did it work? Now, I kind of already talked about it a little bit, but my third tip, and I guess my final tip for this video, is be very specific about the products that you're using. And on top of that, do not oversell yourself. And that kind of sounds counterintuitive to what you would imagine on your resume. But one of the things that I've seen a lot is that when you give your skills and what you're good at on your resume, I've seen a lot of people that said they're really, really good at PLCs, Rockwell PLCs, and then you ask them a very basic question about it, or you give them a Rockwell PLC to program, and they don't really know how, because they've been inside of a PLC, they help use it to troubleshoot, as just an example, but they don't really, really know how to use it. It's the same with mechanical guys. If you're putting SolidWorks on your resume, you really need to make sure that you have some sort of certification to kind of prove that you know how to use SolidWorks, and or a project, like a portfolio website that you can pull up and say, I use SolidWorks to make this disc brake where I use this feature, I put fillets in it, and then I sent it to a CNC machinist, and here, by the way, look at this picture of my work. Or a lot of people put FEMA. They'll take one class in college on FEMA, and they'll say that they're experts in it, or they're really good at it. Well, how? When have you used it outside of the classroom? I think the base knowledge is that the base idea, or the main idea, is that everybody is going through school at that program. Everybody has the same classes for the most part. There's specialties, of course, and minors and masters, but everybody takes an FEMA class. Everybody takes a machine component design class. Everybody takes calculus. Everybody takes physics. So saying that you're good at that or that you're an expert at that on your resume, you're kind of putting it out there that you can be thrown into the field and you can be somewhat kind of self-sustainable or self-sufficient on your own. And so overselling yourself is, in my opinion, just my opinion, it's kind of a big no-no. And going back, because I kind of got off track there, but going back is be very specific about what you're using, what types of softwares, what type of CAD packages, what types of versions, because if you understand what version you're using of something, they know that you're paying attention to that stuff and that you're good at that version, because it takes extra effort and kind of you show that you care a lot more if you're talking specifically about that. So yeah, I think those are my big three, and I kind of said a fourth one there. I think it is very important to be very honest on your resume. I think you should not oversell yourself. I think you should be doing tons of projects on your own, solving real world problems. And I think honestly the most important thing is you need to fail. You need to show people you fail, and then what you did and how your thought process changed and what you have learned. Because in the real world, I've been kind of, doing, I've been in engineering, I guess, for 6 years now. In the real world, every problem is different every single day, unless you're on some sort of massive project. But even still, the daily problems are different. And over time, your thought process completely changes. And that's something that comes after you fail a whole bunch, or you thought you knew how something worked, and turns out you didn't, because there's so many other variables. And I think that the number one sign of an engineer is if you're doing projects at home, it shows that you have an interest in engineering. Like, it shows that you're a nerd and that you love this stuff and that you do it for fun because you enjoy it. And when you're failing all the time, and you can talk about how you feel and what changes you make, that's the number one sign of an engineer. Even if you don't have your degree yet. I know a lot of electricians and maintenance techs that would, that can walk laps around engineers because they spent 20 years or 15 years in the field and they've already tried that. So they've learned their lesson the hard way because maybe they were down for 3 days and they finally got it figured out on their own. Number one side is being able to critically think, but also thinking outside of the box to solve a problem, because every problem can be solved multiple different ways. And when you think that you're going to create something on your own and then you fail, and then you kind of sit back and you're like, man, I don't know what wrong. But then you don't quit, you don't give up, and then you go back and end up finding a solution to work for what your project is. That's the number one way that you can sell yourself. And I think if you start doing that on your resume, being very specific, like if you increase production by 18% because you added this change, you need to tell them that you increased production by 18% because you made this change, because that's what makes you that's what makes you stand out to employers. That's what they're really looking for. Everybody's coming out of a box of crowns. Just to be honest, like, this is the whole, like, the hard facts. Everybody coming out of the engineering school, ABET accredited engineering school, whatever it may be, apprenticeship program, you're clear cut the same box of crowns that everybody else is. You just need to have something more, internships, but even more than that, you need self projects, or just even one big self project. I think game changer. But yeah, I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. If you made it this far, you rock, man, for real. But yeah, thank you so much. Sorry for taking your time, but also this is important stuff, y'all. I mean, we're trying to reach out to the next generation, or even people that are looking to kind of upskill. Trust me, I do not know it all. I'm learning more and more every day, but yeah, I think we can grow together on this one. So yeah, please rate, comment, and subscribe down below. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you want to send me over your resume and want me to take a quick look at it, let me know. I mean, you have a million resources. At this point, you have ChatGPT that can probably clean some stuff up for you. You have, Reddit. So, yeah, please go ahead and don't be afraid to subscribe to me. See ya.